What type of horror movie watcher are you? Four college kids are headed to a secluded cabin in the woods on a mountain. They're driving up the mountain. Do you hear a single banjo start playing? Or a high-pitched shrill laugh? Or which of those three do you hear anytime an opening scene in a book or a movie has a group of characters or kids headed to a secluded spot in the woods? Let me know in the comments down below. But if that sounds like a trope that you love, stay tuned for the review. What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to The Nerdy Narrative, a little channel I created in order to have a place to come and share with you about all of the books that I read. I read in a variety of different genres, but I do typically seem to read a lot more of fantasy and horror, or at least that's what I've been doing here recently. Today I want to talk to you about a book that I recently finished called The Unwelcome by Jacob Steven Mohr. The Unwelcome was originally published on February 1st of 2021, but the audiobook just became available on Audible September 30th. How this book ended up on my radar, the author wrote me an email and asked if I would be interested in reviewing the book, and he included a link for a YouTube video that has a trailer for this book. I will have that linked in the description box down below. The trailer combined with the book description told me all I needed to know. It was definitely one that I was going to be interested in reading. I did this as an immersion read where I read the physical copy alongside listening to the audiobook. So when I sat down, opened it up to the prologue, pulled it up on Audible, hit play. The audiobook narrator is Liz Crane. She's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Love her. But her voice is so cheerful and bubbly that I was having trouble reconciling that this is supposed to be a horror novel. And I just could not get that to work. I was just being pulled out of it. So here's what I did. I turned off the audiobook and I just read the first 3 chapters physically. And then I reincorporated listening to the audiobook while I read along. And that was fine. I needed to get a feel for the characters. I needed to form them in my mind, get my picture of them, hear them speak in the voice that I gave them in my own head before I could let somebody else do that for me. Nothing against her. She was fantastic. She's a fantastic narrator. Her tone of voice just did not match with what I felt the tone for this book should have been. In the prologue, and if you read the synopsis on the back of the book, the first thing you're gonna find out is you are dealing with a body snatcher. Now, if you're somebody like me who grew up watching USA's Up All Night, you might have a preconceived notion of what you think a story about a body snatcher is going to be about. And I will say, you might be right, but you're going to have a lot wrong. What I mean by that is, we have a group of college kids going for a weekend getaway to a secluded cabin in the woods. The central focus of the story is on Kate Brecker. She has just come through a terrible breakup with her boyfriend Lutz Viscara. Of course, on the heels of that breakup, she did what every single one of us did when we were that age. We ran straight back to our best friend that we had kicked to the curb for this boyfriend-girlfriend. And I just really got to feel that Kate and her best friend Alice had a very, very special friendship. Like, they were very, very close as girls. They stayed close. Every year on Halloween, they did matching costumes with one another, like that type of friendship. Kate runs to Alice for comfort. Alice has this trip planned with her boyfriend to go to his family's cabin in the woods. Of course, she invites Kate to go along to just get out in nature, get a breath of fresh air, just have some solitude, to move on with her life. Because Alice invited Kate to the weekend getaway with her boyfriend and basically created the third wheel, she decided to invite another friend named Riley to help break up the awkwardness and help maybe make things run a little more smoothly, because Riley is just very vivacious and outgoing, just talks nonstop. Does that remind you of anybody you know? All of this is a familiar trope, right? We have seen so many scary movies start in a similar fashion, similar scary books start in a similar fashion, and I, for one, just live for it. I love it. I mentioned at the beginning that there's a body snatcher involved, but where it is different, where it's unique, is the body snatcher. It's not what you're thinking. It's not somebody who is just stealing bodies. That's not how it works. And how it works, how it is described by the author, is so interesting. It's so good. That was my favorite part of the book, actually. I was never scared reading this book. It's a horror story. You're supposed to be scared. I was having too good of a time reading it to be scared. I was grinning reading about how the body snatcher operated, what he did, what his purpose was. I just loved it. I was grinning like a fool. I just thought it was so different, so unique. I have never read anything like it before. And it read like a movie. He wrote it so well that this played out scene by scene in a movie to me. The pacing was just perfect. Did it have some campy or cheesy spots in it? Absolutely. But they were right where they should have been. But the scariest part of the story for me is one of the characters is talking about plants, house plants, specifically how growing up her mother always would get these house plants, but she could never keep them alive. Outside, the garden was beautiful. She had no trouble with those, but the inside plants just slowly died. And the character just got it in her mind that these plants were just slowly starving, that they were screaming in agony. Nobody could hear them except she could. So she started hearing just the plants screaming in agony as they were slowly starving and dying. So her mother had to stop bringing in houseplants after that because the character just could not handle it. And that, to me, that slow suffocation, I was just imagining it and I thought, oh my gosh, that was horrific, just absolutely horrific. And that just goes to show the author had a really great descriptive writing style to lend something like a houseplant that type of fear and terror. There is a lot of violence and gore that takes place over the course of this book. For me, it checked all of my boxes for a good horror story. There are a couple of things that were amiss for me. I am one that I always say, I love when my horror stories start out giving me a taste of what's to come. So in the prologue, we're in the perspective of the body snatcher. And I just did not care for that. I think we should have gone straight into chapter 1. The other thing that didn't work for me, I'm a character-driven reader. I didn't really connect or fall in love with any of the characters, which honestly, I don't feel that I should have, because again, when you have a story starting off with college kids going to a secluded cabin in the woods, you're automatically going to assume everybody but one is going to die. Like, that's just my natural assumption with this type of story. So I know they're all going to die, so I probably would be better off not forming an attachment, but that probably was why I wasn't scared, because I didn't have an attachment with those people. So when stuff happened to them, whether they died or didn't die, I didn't care. I would love to see this in a movie. This book to me does have reread capability to it. I feel that there was definitely nuances to things that were happening that I missed because I was so excited and enjoying and needing to know what was going to happen next that I was just flying through it. So I do feel that this book has reread capability, even though I know what's going to happen. But like I said, it's one of those that's a familiar trope. You kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. You're just not sure how we're going to get from point A to point B. And so that's where all the fun is, seeing how that's going to unfold. Have you read The Unwelcome by Jacob Steven Mohr? Do you think it might be one you'd be interested in trying out? If you're curious but you're not quite sure, check out the description box. There's a YouTube video that is the trailer for this book. Right under that will be the link to this book on Amazon. Again, it is available for Kindle, paperback, or Audible. But that's going to do it for my thoughts and opinions on The Unwelcome by Jacob Steven Mohr. I do not know if he has written any other books, but I will definitely be looking into that and keeping an eye on him. I loved his writing style. I thought he did an amazing job with the story. I will absolutely be looking for anything else he might have coming in the future and let you guys know. I do thank you for your time and your support of me and the channel. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.